So you know, if you can easily relate this to what you learned here. What you learned there with what happens with disposable income allocated to consumption and savings. Now, there was another economist who came later on. You can read more about that if there are issues. Let us come back to it. What I wanted to do was to make sure that I discuss as many as possible explanations in the shortest time that we have. So one explanation is the absolute income hypothesis theory. The other one is what is called permanent income theory or permanent income hypothesis. This is another way of explaining the relationship between disposable income or income and consumption. So this permanent income hypothesis okay, so we had absolute income. Then we have now permanent. This one was Maynard Keynes. Okay, then we have permanent income hypothesis. This one was by Friedman. Let me have the spelling correct. Milton Friedman. That's another explanation which talks about income, permanent consumption is proportional to permanent income. This theory is about consumption and it was first developed by Milton Friedman. Okay? And it says permanent consumption is proportional to permanent income. Okay? So your permanent consumption is proportional to your permanent income. So a person's consumption in a year, so that's C in a year, in that income identity, that C in a year, that consumption in a year is determined not just by your income in that year. but also by your expected income in future. So this thing that we had, C plus G plus I, blah, 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 blah. This consumption in a year, this permanent consumption in a year is proportional to your permanent income. Now, it is not dependent on the income that you make in that year. Okay? Your consumption is not gonna be limited by the income that you make in that year, but also by the expected income in the future. So it will not only depend on what you will make in that year, but also on the expected income in the future. Okay? That's how Milton Friedman tried to explain the relationship between income and consumption. Okay? Maynard Keynes was talking about current consumption. This guy came up with what is called permanent consumption. So permanent consumption as relates to permanent income in a year. So he said it's not only that permanent consumption will be related or determined by your permanent income for that year. It will also be influenced by the expected future income. Expected income for the future. So what does he say? What he's saying is that consumption will depend on your permanent income, which is, this permanent income is the present value of expected flow of long-term income. Okay? Consumption depends on permanent income, which is the present value of expected flow of long-term income. So in simple, if you cannot get that one, let's do it simply. It simply says that changes in income, in permanent income, are very important. Not just temporary changes in income. So your behavior will be determined by changes in permanent income, not changes in temporary income. That's what he's trying to say. Changes in temporary income are not as important as changes in permanent income. So any change in permanent income will have a higher influence on your propensity to consume rather than changes in temporary income. So changes in permanent income are the ones which will drive you. It will drive your consumer patterns. That's what he was trying to say. This is another economist, another British economist, coming up with this explanation or theory. So what do we mean by permanent income? It is the present value of the expected flow of income, which is from existing stock of both human and non-human wealth over a long period of time. It's a present value of the expected flow of income. Expected flow of income. A flow of income. What do we mean by flow of income? Present value of the expected flow of income, meaning pali zina zake zimene wewe umapanga zimakubweresera ndalama. Flow. These monies are flowing into you, and they are the ones which will determine or influence your consumption pattern. Not necessarily what you earn today. So this is about both human and non-human wealth over a long period of time. What is human? What is human wealth? Human wealth is what you receive when you go and sell your labor. That's human wealth. No matter kurandira salary because of your human, your body, as long as you are alive, you go and sell your labor. That's your human capital, your human wealth. Landira ndarama. No, don't in musama ganize zina. No, not that. I mean, also the kuzigulisa tupi yai. I don't mean that. I mean selling your labor. Kuzigulisa tupi is selling labor, of course. But yeah, let's tunena za nchito. Wait, za don't, yeah. Kumana, you think too much, eh? This is complex. Yeah, you think over. Okay, so what about non-human wealth? Human wealth is selling your labor. Now, non-human wealth is, for example, if you own assets, you own a lot of assets and you get money. Kamulindi manyumba, kamulindi chani, whatever. That is non-human wealth. So all that human and non-human wealth can actually come up to be your total permanent income. The non-human one, the human one sometimes can fluctuate. Your current can sometimes fluctuate. So non-human wealth is source of all that you receive from whatever property you have. Okay? But we also know that sometimes people have income out of this permanent thing. Sometimes people have incomes that come in unexpectedly, that come in that you cannot predict. So your current income can either be greater or less than your permanent income, depending on what sources of non-human capital you have, non-human wealth that you have. So sometimes your current measured income may not necessarily be equal to your permanent income. It might be more or less. Okay? So that's what he was trying to differentiate. That you can have your current income, which is different from your permanent income. And the difference between current income and permanent income, he called it transitory income. That difference is what he called transitory income, which is usually temporary or unexpected. Okay? So your current income is different from your permanent. The difference is transitory income, which can be temporary or unexpected. Transitory income can be temporary or unexpected. So for example, umati chani chichachi umati mapanga ndarama. Yeah. For example, betting and gambling sometimes can bring you money. Sometimes can make you lose money. So your current income can be affected sometimes. So your permanent income and current income there can be a difference, and sometimes that difference is what is called transitory, and that transitory is unexpected kind of money or temporary kind of money. Okay? But on average, in most cases, this transitory money is almost equal to zero. This unexpected money thing, this temporary money thing is almost equal to zero. So you would say your current income, okay? So your current measured income would then be equal to your permanent income plus your transitory income. So therefore, if you look at this, what he is trying to say is that your permanent consumption may actually differ. Your permanent consumption may actually differ from your measured consumption, from your current measured consumption, because of this factor we have incorporated in this thinking. The thinking that we have incorporated with Mr. Friedman is the issue of other income that comes in, non-human wealth, and transitory income. So therefore, your permanent consumption will not be the same as your measured consumption. Your permanent consumption sometimes might be even higher, sometimes less. Okay? So your consumption, P, permanent consumption, will be equal to your consumption will be equal to your permanent consumption plus your transitory consumption. That's what will define what your total consumption will look like. Measured.
Okay, is measured consumption same as temporary consumption?
Your current, yeah, is your current consumption. Measured consumption is your current consumption.
It's the current consumption, it's not, it's just
Remember, there are two theories here that we have looked at so far. One is about your disposable income and current consumption. Okay? Now, your disposable income does not, in this current, in the absolute income hypothesis, does not incorporate things such as premium bet. It doesn't talk about your permanent income, which can include other sources of income that come in, non-human, for example. Sorry? Yeah, of course, yes. That's why the explanations being given by several economists are different, but they are based on how they understand what kind of sources of income you will have, what kind of resource envelope you will have, but they all are trying to explain how your consumption pattern will behave. Remember, all this is about understanding consumption. What determines somebody's consumption? What determines a country's consumption? And that's why we were saying the difference between consumption spending and total consumption of a human being, for example. That sometimes you consume not what you have bought today. Remember all those things we were talking about. So it's a whole range of discussion, and it's a whole range of issues that you need to understand from which angle. Okay? Now, from the angle of Maynard Keynes, he was talking about absolute income hypothesis. The Maynard Keynes one, yes. When we say Keynesian, you are attributing it to Maynard Keynes. Yeah, he's a very famous guy. So what is very similar is that I find both of them having a relationship which is still linear. When you plot Friedman's consumption function and Keynes' consumption function, they are all straight lines. Okay? In their simple form, they are all straight lines. So this guy, you also have a situation where you have permanent consumption and consumption and on the x-axis, what do they have? Yeah, still similar. Okay, so they are the equation. I mean the graph that you plot is a straight line from the origin here, and this is Friedman's consumption function. But the Maynard Keynes also was the same. only that Maynard Keynes was not starting from here. Check the notes that I gave you. You will see the differences or the similarities there. Yeah, they are almost the same. Only that here is permanent consumption. Okay. Whereas sorry. Permanent income. This is consumption. So this was, this is Friedman. And in blue, so they are all the same. They are all like that. The blue one is Keynes, the red one is Friedman. The difference is the y-axis, okay? Because for Friedman it is permanent income. For Maynard is disposable income. Okay? So what are we trying to say there? What we are learning from there, that guy has gone. What we are learning from there is that the two economists are just giving us an explanation that for Maynard, the consumption depends on disposable income. For Friedman, the consumption depends on permanent income. Okay? That's what you should take from there. The other one is saying consumption depends on disposable income. The one is saying no, it's on permanent income. So you just have to define. You have permanent income or utandauza. We have disposable income or utandauza. How have they explained? Okay? Because you remember we are saying these are explanations. People trying to explain how the behavior of consumption. So economists winner, consumption it depends on disposable income. The other guy says no, it depends on permanent income. So they may have some commonalities, they might have some differences. Okay? Then there's another theory which is called life cycle hypothesis. Which one was developed by Ando and Modigliani. Ando and Modigliani. These are also economists. So they explained consumption based on what they call life cycle. So they are looking at these guys, the way they explained consumption, they are looking at lifetime earnings. You know, how somebody will earn over lifetime. So you will see that for younger people, usually they don't save anything. They spend more than they earn sometimes. Very young people. So for example, you guys, you are spending more than what you earn. Do you generate your own fees? Huh? No. What ambiri ino zose zimene mwavala hapa, zimene mwachenazi, nizoti mwachita guliridwa. Sichoncho. So fees and blah blah blah. And sometimes when you start work also, you start borrowing money to build a house or to buy a car, or you don't have any propensity to save. Whatever you are earning, you will not save. Mwanjisi. Kudi wa parachisoti kapena ndisisi. Kakari kae pasi huku. Peparacha? Pepara ya mtu ndonyi? No, can you go please? Okay? So life cycle hypothesis tizapitiliza next time, because mukanga kuti mwamba kutopa. Yeah. What is important is life cycle. This theory, he is just trying to demarcate people. At certain ages, people don't save. Certain ages, they save a lot. And then later on, like me, when you retire, you start de-saving. Umayamba kudia savings zako. We are no longer saving, you are eating.